Greetings, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Welcome back to my Valheim series. This is episode 12 of my first season, and this is actually the penultimate episode of this season. And trust me, we have a lot ahead of us. There is something like 3.5 hours of footage in this episode, but you can thank me later. I have cropped it down to a useful 52-minute episode. So you better put some extra straps on, put your high-strength helmet on, and we're already off to killing troll territory. Now, our regular viewers will recognise this particular copper node that I'm sitting on, because I did a little bit of troll mining in a previous episode. Well, I decided that maybe it was worth risking a few more hits from a troll, and sure enough, we managed to mine a little bit more of the node before I felt the need to dispatch said troll. Chucking the stone to one side there, and we are running down the coast to put the copper we have into the hold of the boat so it's ready to take back to base once I've filled it up. And as you can see, we're off to a pretty good start. We've got a little bit over half the cargo hold full. Now we've jumped back to the little portal here so I can pull everything down and move it closer to where I'm currently mining copper. This sort of thing, I mean, there's a lot of different ways of handling it, but it's not a bad plan to have a travelling portal with you, and then if the worst happens, you've got a shorter run back to your body. Now, worthy advice, anytime you're around your boat, and particularly at night in an untamed biome, it is always a good idea to have your head on a swivel, make sure no new trolls have spawned in, make sure there's no, red eyes or whatever coming to smack your boat around when you walk away. In this case, I'd already killed them all, so we're all good there. Alright, after a nice restful sleep, we're back at it. I've now decided that I do actually want these chests here. Gives me somewhere to offload stuff, either because I can't take it through the portal, or I don't want to take it through the portal and it needs to go back in the boat. So we've got those chests to offload in if I need them. Just having a look around, just making sure none of the locals are out to get me. and it's straight back into mining. Now, what you need to consider here is during wet weather, it is almost as bad as nighttime in terms of the potential for having dudes showing up. Not as bad as night, but often you will see more during a storm than you will see, you know, at the same time of the day when it's fine. Now I'm electing to fast forward or skip most of the mining. And what I didn't show there is we'd actually now mined the remainder of the cargo hold, and we're sailing it back to our new, well, it's not exactly a new base yet, but this is the little harbour that I've got set up for the boat to try and keep it fairly safe. Now, I'm electing to skip over a lot of the mining and gathering because I've shown it to you more thoroughly in previous episodes, and honestly, you haven't missed anything. All of the big fights, I've been showing those to you. Relaying stuff by using the Eikthyr buff, you've had a good look at that before. This has just been me carrying whatever the maximum is I can carry, and then using the Eikthyr to sprint back up here, where I'm doing my smelting at what is still my main base. Now, as you can see in this chest, between that and what I'm smelting, I actually don't have very much tin, but I am going to have quite a lot of copper. So I am using what little I have to make some upgrades to the equipment to better prepare me for what is to come. Alright, just a quick cut. That's all my seed carrots. And I'm now just going to pick all of those out of the ground and chuck a good chunk of them back into the ground as carrots. And that's pretty much what that looks like. Here I am making a few of the locals explode in preparation to harvest a bunch of fine wood. Needless to say, it's harvesting, so I cut it out. Now, as you can see, we get back, we actually got quite a lot of fine wood. And now I am making preparations to put down a couple of portals. Yeah, it's 2 Surtling cores, 10 of the eyes, and 20 fine wood per single portal. So you want twice that if you want a pair of portals. So now we've dropped a new portal down, And this is effectively just going to be a roaming portal at this stage, which might imply I'm going to do a bit of roaming. Well, you're going to have to wait and see how that works out. Yep, we are jumping in our trusty little boat, and our mission today is we're looking for two things. Unfortunately, we're only successful in finding one of those. I'm going to let you guess what it is that I'm looking for at this point. Post your guesses down below. What the primary mission is and what the secondary thing is that I might also be looking for. Now, quite a lot of this exploring footage has been sped up because, sailing from point A to point B in these little boats does take a bit of time. I will give you a free spoiler. We don't get to see any serpents on this run, which, to be honest, kind of surprised me. You may see me run aground a couple of times, though, because little boat and big waves. We did cover quite a lot of ground, and thank heavens we actually had some useful wind for most of it. Now, useful tip, it is actually good to mark out some of the biomes, because often you'll visually identify a biome, but you may not have got close enough to the shore for it to register on the map if you mouse over the map. The other thing that you won't often remember when you're just looking at the map is, elements of the biome itself. Is there, meadows and black forest right next to each other, like here. You can put little notes on the map to remind yourself, because you may not need it now, but you may reach a point later where you need more Surtling cores, and so you need more black forest so you can find more dungeons to, raid for Surtling cores. So don't be shy with your notes. I mean, you can always delete them later if you don't need them. But, it could be, a number of days before, or even weeks in real time before I reach a point of deciding whether I definitely do or do not need that information. And there goes one of my running agrounds. These little boats don't deal with the big waves very well. That is something that the next boat up deals with far better. But at this stage, until I get iron, I'm not going to be able to have anything other than this one. Now, in the sped up footage, some of the looking around gets a bit twitchy. Apologies for that. Unforeseen side effect of what I'm doing. When I'm looking around quickly like that, it's because nighttime and storms does seem to increase the likelihood that you will get a serpent. And if you are in an ocean biome, that is usually where they spawn. So most of my random lookings around aren't that random. I'm trying to keep an eye out for any serpents, because serpents and this boat, yeah, it's not a good idea. Now, there is something else that's not a good idea, and that is to run into plains biome in this boat with this gear. plains is a long way above my gear level, and this is very, very, very much a brown trouser moment, because in the storm it makes it almost impossible to see the mosquitoes in the plains biome, and this is why I almost did a 180 on the spot to make sure I remain a respectful distance from the plains coast and not run the risk of running into a mosquito, because even if I had favourable wind, which I don't really, I could not outrun a mosquito in this boat, and one shot from a mosquito, even with all the food I've got on, in this gear it wouldn't be enough. He would one-shot me. Or if he attacked the boat, it would probably take 2 or 3 hits and the boat would be trashed as well. So, plains, yeah, just give it a miss, and give it a miss by a country mile, and you should be good. Now, Valheim absolutely loves to do this to you. You'll get favourable wind for a while, and then you just won't. You'll end up running on oars only, directly into the wind for what feels like an eternity. This is just one of the ways that Valheim really likes to screw you over. I mean, you could just rename the game Murphy, as in Murphy's Law, because I think Murphy has a lot to do with the RNG in this game. Now, another biome that you do need to put a respectful distance between you and is the swamp biome. Now, swamp is closer to my level, in fact, a lot closer than what plains is, but there is a fairly horrendous thing that you can get in the water close in near the swamp biome, and that's leeches. Now, with good enough wind, I can actually outrun leeches, thank heavens. But if you've got no wind and you're under oars only, a leech will usually catch you in this boat, and it will very slowly chew holes in it, and that is not really a good place to be. And losing your boat while you're off the coast of the swamp biome is definitely not a good idea. Now, I just marked that crypt on the map. You will visually recognise their profile after a while. Crypts are where, once we've got the next boss reward, crypts are where you go to get iron, which is your next resource. And that is the first one that I've spotted. I'm sure I'll find more as time goes on, but I can't really access them without cheesing it at the moment. And as I said in earlier episodes, I generally don't do anything that's cheesy or exploitive. I just play the game for the most part as intended, and I just make use of terrain where I can. Now, I see this tower here, and for those who hadn't guessed that the Elder location is one of my goals from this mission, that pretty much confirms it. You can see the Elder icon is not very far inland from where I'm landing, and this tower is reasonably well intact, and the fact there's a troll there doesn't actually concern me that much at the moment. I'm looking at the tower and going, hey, that looks really solid. I want to use that for my base. So I gently land the boat and start looking at what I need to do to deal with this troll. Alright, priority 1 is to throw down a bench and repair the boat. It did take a couple of hits during my journey. Now the boat's back up to 100%. It improves the chances that anything that might end up attacking it is not going to take it out. And now we're trying to sneak into this tower. Now, it is a skeleton tower, but the skeletons are melee only and they can't climb ladders, so I decide to take the time to set up a portal, even though I can hear that the troll is literally just through that wall. Again, I'm prioritising making sure I can get back to base, or get back from base, should I die. Now, welcome to a handful of a fight, but those seasoned veterans who have been watching me for a while generally understand that I usually go okay with these, even though at the last minute we now have more than the usual handful. So I think this might be a time to say, grab some popcorn, sit back, and I might be a little while getting this resolved. Alright, this fight definitely falls under the not messing around category for a couple of reasons. One, I am quite a long way from home. Two, as you can see down in the bottom of the tower, there are a couple of the grey dwarves broke off from attacking me, and they are working their way through the workbench and the portal which I have carefully placed in that tower. So I am very much working to try and deal with everybody else as quickly as I can, simultaneously with no rested buff, which is why I'm starting to have issues with stamina, even though I did use my Ike there. And just dealing with the sheer volume of grey dwarves. Not to mention our big friend here, who definitely wants to see me 6 feet under. Now, if you've worked your way through your bowl of popcorn by now, I honestly don't blame you at the very least, because this is going on a lot longer than normal. Don't worry, we will have a resolution for you soon. Bit of a tip for you, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. As you can see, I didn't get the killing blow on that troll. It was our little archer friend over there, the skeleton. It's quite useful to know the different factions in Valheim. I won't explain them in any detail here, but undead basically hate everybody. And sometimes they can come in handy to aggro some of them at the same time that you're aggroing a whole bunch of other guys in a massive fight, because they will just focus on whatever the nearest target is, and if you're not the nearest target, they're going to help kill, you know, some of the dudes that are trying to kill you. So, you know, little tip there, not particularly useful in Black Forest that often, but some of the later biomes, yeah, there are some I'll say enmities that can be taken advantage of to make your fights go a bit better. Now, we did a bit of a patch-up job on the tower, just sealed in the side that was open with some timber frame and a door. Now, we've come back to base here just to rest up a bit and to get ourselves ready for the adventures to come. Now, what sort of adventures can you get up to when you're on a new island with new locals? Same thing we did on the old island with the old locals. We make as many of them explode as we can. This is the spawn location for the Elder. This is the one that got marked out in one of the dungeons earlier. And that's the flame pit that you will end up sacrificing the seeds. The seeds drop from a couple of different things. But we're not ready to do the Elder just yet. We've got some more locals to make explode, including this troll. Now, as is always the case on a new island, you stir up any kind of a ruckus and more locals usually come out. Just a word of advice, anytime you see a Grey Dwarf Shaman, try and focus them down first. The stronger the Shaman, the more likely it is that you're going to want to focus them down first, simply because all of their abilities scale with the number of stars they have. So a 2-star Shaman can heal like crazy, and you may find it hard to burn through that heal trying to kill off the other mobs that they're healing. It's better to keep the Shaman interrupted just by shooting them with arrows, and eventually with them off balance all the time you will kill them and get rid of their healer. Just pray you never get 3 or more Shamans. That gets to be a hell of a handful. Now, the current mission is to try and get some more settling cores and some more loot, because loot's always good. And at the moment, the best source of loot that we can go into are these dungeons in the Black Forest biome. Some of these dungeons were less than friendly in loot. Some of them had rancid remains in them, but as you can see, my upgraded bronze mace makes extremely short work of rancid remains. And this, boys and girls, is why you have a bronze mace when you're doing these dungeons, because skeletons are weak to blunt, and the bronze mace hits very hard, and it hits even harder when you upgrade it. Now, in equal measures of hilarity, a number of these dungeons had Elder markers in them, and of course they will show you where the nearest Elder spawn is. Well, you know, we kind of know where that is, and we're like 100 meters or less from it. So, you know, it's the game's way of saying, are you really sure you know where the Elder is? RNG for the win. Now, you might say, but Rob, aren't you carrying that delicious hammer, 2-handed hammer, on your number 7 button? And you would be correct. And at this stage, I'd kind of forgotten that I had that on me. Don't worry, I do remind myself a little bit later, and we do have quite a lot of fun with it. Alright, finding this dungeon, this very special dungeon, was not part of my missions today, because you don't even get the quest for this dungeon until you meet Hilda. Now, Birdie Numnums has spawned in to tell me about this dungeon with some very worthy advice. And he would be very correct. This dungeon is part of Hilda's quests, and while most of the dungeon is the same difficulty as every other dungeon, at some point in this particular dungeon there is a special boss. And I haven't tried to do that boss at this gear level, and given, you know, a well-established habit of Valheim for making things go wrong for you, I have elected to bypass that dungeon. I've just marked it on the map, and I will come back to it when I think my gear level is more appropriate and we can do a full clear. Don't worry, I will not be skipping out on that aspect of it. In the meantime, I am going to keep checking for dungeons. Now, I was about to dig this stone out of the way when I realised that I could just click above it and still enter, so hooray for that. And here we go. This is the moment where I remembered that I have what Itchy and I refer to as the door knocker on my shoulder. And Stagbreaker is, in these dungeons, just amazing. There is nothing better for clearing a room full of skeletons, except no substitutes. It does AoE damage, and it hits quite hard. Now, it is quite resource intensive to make, and as you can see from how the one-handed mace has been performing, you know, the mace is enough for these dungeons. You know, this thing is just overkill in here, but there will be a stage in a future season where having a weapon of this type is, I'm not going to say mandatory, but it is going to make your life a lot better. Now, I've just realised in editing that the sped up background noise sounds like, I don't know, a backing sound to like a Chemical Brothers track or something, and all we need is the wow, I don't know. You tell me if that would make a good track or not. Now, I'd long suspected that you couldn't ambush a skeleton because they're always aware of your location. Turns out you just need better sneak, because there I go, I just smacked the living hell out of that one without him even having a clue that I was there. So at this point, my sneak is, with the plus 15 I get from this set, it's getting pretty close to 40, and I am starting to enjoy the benefits. Now, you might think it's a bit dull destroying skeletons all the time, and, you know, I'll admit that does get a bit dull from time to time, and here's some more, but skeletons aren't the only thing that you will come across in these dungeons. And that little noise is a clue as to what else you'll come across. And that would be these ghosts. Now, I thought I'd killed him there, but there was no death sound. It turns out I just knocked him down to the lower level, and he has now come back. Now, ghosts aren't weak to blunt damage like the skeletons are, but they don't have a huge health pool, so it's not worth specialising in a weapon that will take them out faster, because it just means you're carrying something extra that you don't really need. You just put up with the fact that it takes an extra swing or two to kill your ghost, and they die, and, you know, the world is a better place. Gotta say, through a combination of a lot of dungeons in this area and some of them actually having some good loot, we're going alright for settling cores and other treasures. So because it's been working so well, I'm gonna keep going at these dungeons until I've basically done all of them in the area. Actually, technically, I'm going a bit too well. The amber, I'm starting to have to leave that one behind because I've already got full stacks of it, and I don't really want to get rid of any of the other stuff I've got because I value it more than the amber at this stage. So we are very much starting to get at capacity, but we're still going to keep going, and we'll see what else we can find. And predictably, shortly after that, I decided, since I was close to base anyway, I'd come back through the portal and just have a massive unload of all of my fat loots back at base, and then see what my next task was going to be from there. Well, I wonder if anyone can guess what I'm going to be doing next. There's already been a little bit of a clue on screen on what my next task will be. You can see from the fact that I've got some troll leather on me, I'm just taking this as an opportunity to upgrade some of my gear a little bit. This is a great thing with troll leather. It doesn't take a lot of troll leather to make meaningful improvements in it. The obvious downside, obviously, is you very much need to be killing trolls to get that leather, but as I've demonstrated, it's not hugely difficult to knock down the trolls. It just takes a bit of time and a bit of planning, but once you've done it once or twice, honestly, it's not that difficult at this gear level. Now, pro tip, whenever you do upgrades, it will unequip that item, so make a mental note to re-equip your gear after you've upgraded it. Here I am queuing up some more production. Unloading what I've already smelted. And deciding to make a small improvement in here. I keep forgetting to refuel the torch I have inside. And that said though, standing near this portal actually lights the room up really well. But as you can hear, the portal is loud as hell. And I'm getting very close to the stage where I feel like I want to move that portal outside as well. But before I think about doing that, I'm just putting a couple of these copper sconces up on the wall. Because I've got an abundance of copper at the moment, and if I ever need the copper bars back, I can just destroy these and get the bars back anyway. But for the moment, a couple of copper sconces just to make some better light. And then we'll start thinking about what our next task is. Now, we're back out on Elder Island. Have you worked out what I might be doing here this time? Gathering some berries? No, not really. Could I be here maybe to kill a troll? Well, yes I am, but I didn't actually realise this troll was here until I got here. I reached the point where I'm basically showing trolls no sign of respect when I kill them. I just take half a step outside their reach, and in a move of showing even less respect, I decided to shoot that one in the nuts as the killing blow. No, the reason why we've come to the Elder summoning area with our 3 seeds is we are now going to do the Elder boss fight. Now, the Elder is quite a bit harder than Eikthyr. I just clicked on that just to show the hint. It says burn their young. They are basically part tree, so they grow from a seed, so hence you burn 3 seeds to summon the Elder boss. Now, I'm sitting here to give myself a bit of time to give you a breather, but it's also because I was wondering if this rainstorm was going to stop. I decided it wasn't, so I'm just going to go ahead with the fight. Alright, you better get yourself an extra large bucket of popcorn. This is not a quick fight. Now, the Elder has a couple of different attacks. One of them is to summon these roots everywhere, and the roots will attack you and do quite a bit of damage if you get close enough. The second attack is this wave of vines that he throws in your direction, and that one hits quite hard. He does have a third attack, which is like a stomp, but he only does that if you get within melee range. The tactic for the Elder, if you're not using one of the cheese methods, is to literally just use fire arrows. You want to bring a ton of them with you, like I had a stack of fire arrows for this fight. And you want to just keep him on fire. Like you'll light him on fire for a few seconds with the fire arrow. Use that time to relocate if you need to, and then relight the fire as soon as you can. And you can see as the fire ticks, it is actually reducing his health slowly as well. So, you know, you just need a bit of patience. There is a couple of the boss fights that are a bit like this one. You know, shoot them with an arrow, light them on fire, let them burn, you know, rinse, repeat. And as you can see, if you've got lots of patience, this is a perfectly fine plan. However, plans rarely survive. Actually, there's a military saying, I think it says, plans rarely survive close contact with the enemy. I think that's how the saying goes. Correct me if I'm wrong with the message. And needless to say, we're here. The skeleton I'm not that concerned about. Like, I end up killing him, but I was kind of hoping that he would go for the elder and not me, but yeah, sometimes you're just unlucky that way. Now, anytime that the elder is summoning roots, you want to be moving away from that. Anytime the elder is shooting those vines at you, you want to be ducking behind these pillars, and most of the time you're not going to want to get within melee range. Now, I was starting to get a tad impatient with this fight. I'm not sure why in retrospect, but I'm going to start making a few mistakes here in a minute, and I want you to see if you can figure out what they might be. Yeah, meleeing the elder is probably not a great idea. His stomp does hit pretty hard in this gear level, and I probably could have done without losing quite so much health. But then I didn't take cover behind the nearest pillar, and consequently, rather than focusing on running for cover, I focused too much on trying to continue fighting him, and those vines, yeah, the damage just stacks up very quickly with those vines. So here I am doing my heroic corpse run back to my body. This is the reason why you always have a portal nearby. This would have been absolutely horrific had I needed to go back to my main base, build a boat, and then sail back over here. That would have taken a whole session by itself. And I was not keen to be doing that. So I'm back here. We're fighting the elder. The elder is at, I'll say, about a 30% health. I finally got round to putting the rest of my gear on. I'm still under the corpse run buff for another 8 seconds, and I'm trying to get as much damage on the boss as I can during that buff period. Yeah, it's actually still nighttime, as you can see from the sky, and any kind of combat at night is bound to attract more of the locals, so great time to run the old Go-Go Gadget Ike buff, because we only just got rid of the wet debuff. We of course have our cold debuff because it's nighttime, and you know, trying to run around and dodge and use the bow, all of that stuff requires stamina, and our stamina is not regenerating very quickly at the moment. So Ike buff to help me run away and have enough stamina left to continue to put damage on the elder. And that is one way of killing the Elder. And now he's on the ground and about to explode in spectacular fashion. And this is where we get the trophy and we get the special loot. Now the special loot is the silver key. The silver key is what you need to be able to enter the crypts that you find in the swamp, which means the next biome that we're going to be heading for will be the swamp, so we can start collecting more, well, sorry, not more, we should be collecting a new resource, which is iron. Now, of course, we're not quite done yet, because it's not good enough to just kill the boss. We need to put his trophy back on the appropriate stone. And so, rather than having to run both ways, we have spare mats. We are going to make a portal to take us back to the starting area. So I drop one portal here, and we are now going to run back to the starting area so that we can make a little shelter for the portal, and to drop the linking portal up so that any future bosses we kill, it's going to be much less effort to hang their trophy. And here we go. As you can see, there's the Eichthea trophy already active. Our old mate Slenderman here is the Elder. And this is the mounting of the Elder trophy. Yes, very dramatic. Alright, and this now brings us to the conclusion of the first season of Valheim. I thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for season 2. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on season 2. In the meantime, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Thank you again for watching, and make sure you have a wonderful day.